What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I just want to share my interview with David. Went over a lot of the questions that I've already brought up on previous videos on production, dilution, capacity. A lot of different points were all brought up. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know in the comments as well while the interview is playing if there is anything that tentatively does stand out to you, and if there is any potential questions going forward that maybe is unanswered, let me know in the comments. And with that, let's get right to it. What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I got the one and only David Michery with me today. How are you doing, David?
Good, and you?
I'm doing phenomenal. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, and I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, of course. If you don't mind, we can get right to it. Starting off with production. So obviously given the latest PR and so forth, could you talk on as far as production when it's slated to start, both in the M1, M3 category, and just capacity if you are aware of that?
Sure. So again, we announced publicly on multiple occasions that the Class 3 startup manufacturing will occur this July, which is right around the corner, and we'll have sellable vehicles that'll leave in August and September. So we anticipate that we'll be able to, book that revenue. Most of the vehicles that are coming out this year are accounted for, meaning customers are waiting for them. So we're pretty excited about that.
And what about the M1? So I know you mentioned, obviously it's been stated before. Do you have any update on, for instance, the
Sure.
M1?
Yeah, sure. So start of manufacturing will occur in August, and we'll have sellable vehicles in September, and we're excited about that. These will be great vehicles with a lot of anticipation and demand for them. Again, the only all-electric Class 1 in the market. So not to say that somebody else isn't trying to get in there. We're there. We're there now. Not tomorrow, not next month. We're there. So yeah, we've been aggressively ramping up to meet the demands. So we're hoping that we don't have no glitches in the systems. As you start to run equipment and you have vehicles moving, you get injuries, you get all sorts of things when you got a lot of people doing a lot of things. But hopefully, logistically, we feel we got the right guy heading the helm down there in Tunica. His name's John Taylor. And I'll reiterate, if people don't know who he is or really didn't pay attention, when we brought him on board, it took a long time to get that guy to come join us, right? We had to pull him out of a couple of other positions, but primarily he spent the bulk of his career at General Motors. And Elon, when he decided he wanted to start Tesla, went to Detroit and grabbed some top tier talent. And one of those guys was John Taylor. And it's highly known that John Taylor was one of the first 50 employees, 50 employees at Tesla. John built the architecture for Fremont, as well as the architecture for the Model S. And John is building the architecture for the Fremont location, or built the architecture for the Fremont location, and is readjusting the architecture in Mishawaka for B1, B2, and MULN 5 production. So we got a rock star. I call him a rock star. He doesn't like that, but we got a rock star in our team that proven that he can do that. So he built the architecture for the facilities and the architecture for the Class 1, Class 3, MULN 5, Bollinger B1, B2. Anything that comes out of MULN will be a John Taylor hands-on project. The guy's really good.
Oh,
And he did that for General Motors for a real long time. So, General Motors to Tesla.
no, that's good to know.
So the general public can know that it's in good hands.
Definitely. And as far as the production for kicking off in August for the M1, is that both the campus and the cargo van, or is that just the cargo? What's the breakdown of that?
Yeah, so class one is the full high-speed vehicle, meaning vehicle that can obviously drive anywhere it wants to drive, right? Obviously, it's limited to range, but you can get on any highway, you can go anywhere. We call it a high-speed vehicle. We announced earlier that the class one, the high-speed vehicle, was fully compliant for crash testing and safety, which are the two main factors for homologation, right? We're also going to announce that these vehicles, so that it's clear that these are high-speed vehicles, right?
And are you aware of, I guess, capacity once production is kicked off for both M1 and M3?
Okay, so as of today, June 29th, right, we estimate 660 units between now and the end of 2023 that will leave the factory from a class one perspective. And we estimate 930 units of the class three will leave the factory to customers between now and the end of 2023. Okay, and then in 24, we're going to have 368 class one-seaters, and then we're introducing a two-seater, which will produce 11,000. So there'll be 11,000 class one two-seaters and 368 class one-seaters. Right now, if you ask the question, one-seater, well, you get some companies that, really these vehicles are, designed for last, mile delivery, and it's a one-person job. It's not a two-person job. So we took that into account. We felt that would be a very small percentage of the business. The bulk of the business would be a two-seater, and that's why we'll have 11,000 units hit the market in 24. As far as the class three, we're going to have 3,000 units in 24. Oh, wow. So 930 units between now and the end of this year, and 3,000 in 24. Now, that's a lot bigger vehicle. It's a class three, right? 10,000 pounds or greater, and obviously a higher price point. And more of what I would call a larger capacity commercial vehicle. Could configure to any specification, and that's what's unique about it.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think a lot of investors will love to hear those capacity amounts. On my channel, though, when I do typically cover Mullen videos and cover, obviously, the day-to-day interactions, I usually bring up short interest. And obviously, given the amount of shorting that has been happening, do you have any updates as far as share intel that you'd like to share with us?
Okay, so we publicly announced that we had hired share intel, and we publicly announced that we were concerned about being on the NASDAQ Reg SHO list on a regular basis. I mean, that's public information. Anybody can go to NASDAQ and look at that list. We continue to be on that list. So we hired them, and they're doing their job. And other than that, right now, I can't give out any additional information that hasn't already been publicly disclosed. For your protection and my protection, I think that the general public should all hear the information together at one time, and we definitely, we'll address them when we have more information to address them with.
Okay, that's good to know. Actually, you did bring up NASDAQ, and I think one part that's really confused a lot of investors is whether or not Mullen is actually NASDAQ compliant. Can you help, I guess, shed some light on that, and what's your perspective on where Mullen stands?
Sure. Okay, so I want to be real clear about this. Mullen is fully compliant other than the minimum bid requirement. Fully compliant other than the minimum bid requirement.
Okay, so just that $1 and
$1 bid requirement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did NASDAQ give you any
like every other guy in the space?
Yeah,
That's not
exactly.
main Tesla.
Yeah, no, definitely. Have they given you any other date tentatively other than I think it's September the 6th, if I remember correctly?
I believe it might be September 7th. It was publicly disclosed. We're going to work really hard to be compliant, and we feel very confident in our ability to. Again, it comes down to fundamentals, right? I mean, you and I have talked about this in the past. Look, there's a lot of guys that just talk, right? And we're one of them too, right? You got to stop talking. You got to put your head down, and you got to work, and you got to deliver. You asked me why have I been quiet? I said, listen, I'm tired of talking. I just want to execute. I want to put my head down. I want to dig into the trench and fight like hell. So right now, it's not just me, it's the sentiment, it's the culture within this company. We're the underdog. We want to work harder than anybody else. There's no vacations, there's no weekends, there's no 8-hour days. If I have to work 24/7, everybody else has to do that with me. If I have to sleep, in a factory, then everyone's going to sleep with me in a factory. If I have to physically pick up a screwdriver and screw something in, I'm going to do it. Okay. I told a family member the other day that I am going to be damned if I'm going to allow anybody to beat me and say that I didn't do something that I promised that I was going to do. I mean, again, like I told you, you got to kill me to stop me. And I know that these guys literally want to kill me. Again, like I'm the, cause of, I guess, according to, what I read out there, and sometimes it's, pretty good. It's amusing, right? I get blamed for the economy, right? We were talking earlier this morning about someone blamed Joe Biden and David Michery for the collapse of the economy. I'm like, how the hell did I have anything to do with that? It's bad enough being blamed for the collapse of the EV sector. I wish I had that kind of credit and that kind of power to do that. But anyway, again, all seriousness, I want to do as much as I can to try to bring value to our shareholders and create an environment within our company, a culture of hard work, a good work ethic, deliveries, just do as you say. And we are.
That's good to know. Yeah, I think a lot of investors really want to hear that. And I guess given the stock price sometimes hasn't really correlated with what you've been doing behind the scenes, but truly given how low the stock has actually gone, I am actually curious, have you bought any, or I guess, do you plan on buying any physical shares of Mullen in maybe the foreseeable future?
I can't, again, I can't say something that hasn't already happened, again, and it hasn't been already disclosed publicly. All I can tell you is that if something like that were to happen, everybody would know all at the same time. And, again, I cannot disclose any non-material, non-public material information without it, being already disseminated, to the general public. But that's a good question. And I know that, we'll be addressing the general public soon.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Obviously, the shareholder meeting is coming up fairly soon, in around a month and a bit. There was one part I did want to bring up to you and just get your perspective. Can you, I guess, explain why Mullen does want to move from being a Delaware corporation to a Maryland corporation?
Well, honestly, first and foremost, and there's some really good points here, and I'm going to share these points so that all of the other guys in the space maybe want to do what we're doing, because when you're trying to mitigate as much cost as possible, and you want to stretch every dime as far as you can in a market where things are really, really tough, you look for every opportunity to save money, right? And in Maryland, Maryland has no franchise tax for corporation. That's first, no franchise tax, right? Maryland law offers additional protections in the event of an unsolicited takeover attempt, right, on a company. So you always have to think about that. And being public, and when your stock is, in my opinion, right, I believe the share price that right now doesn't reflect the true value of the company. That's just my opinion. And something like that could leave the company open to potential, hostile takeover or anything. I mean, anything can happen when you have $250 million in cash in the bank and you're trading at I don't know what, I looked at Yahoo this morning. It said that it had like a $26 million market cap or whatever the hell. I mean, come on, like how do you have a market cap that's 10 times less than the cash on hand? I mean, you got to be crazy. So, so you got to look at any potential issue that could arise. And one of the things we wanted to do was to protect the company and protect our shareholders. So if we could mitigate, the franchise tax fee for corporations, and we could get additional protections against takeovers and to protect our shareholders' interest, why wouldn't we do that? And we've outlined a lot of these things in our proxy. If you take a look at the definitive 14A, we list the benefits of Maryland. And that's really the real reason. It's just me trying to save money and look for protection. That's all.
Yeah, obviously similar, like you mentioned already. It's just on social media, so a lot of people are always take a lot of context and kind of run with it in a different direction than maybe what is being meant by the company. So I think that's why I wanted to ask that question. There was a PR recently came out, I think it was last week, talking on how Mullen has sufficient amount of cash for the next 12 months. Does that mean that dilution is paused? And what does that mean for the current and future warrants?
Okay, so we publicly announced that the Series D preferred holders are gone. Okay, and what that means is it means they have no more rights. They exercise. We were hoping that they didn't exercise their last, option, which was at their discretion. That option expires on June 30th, 2023, which is tomorrow. They picked it up on June 23rd, I believe. They picked up that option, but after that, they're pretty much done. So what that means is we've had them in our deal for 2 years, I think approximately about 2 years since we went public, right? And so the thought is once we get through this last 100 million that they exercised on June 23rd, we're done. Meaning, they got to convert out, their preferred and their warrants, and then they go away. They do bye-bye. And unfortunately, at the time that we went public, there were not a lot of people, willing to give us money. I think one of the biggest knocks on us, as I recall, back in November when we had gone public a few years ago, was, hey, these guys don't have any money. The joke was, look at their financials. They have like $345 on their balance sheet, which really wasn't a real true accurate depiction. But still, we really didn't have a lot of money. Like, we didn't come out of the box like all the other SPACs with hundreds of millions of dollars. When we did the deal with Net Element on the RTO, we got $10 million. I mean, it really, in comparison to what everybody else got, wasn't a lot of money, but we made do. We had been around for over a decade, and we know how to survive on minimal capital, and we maximize every penny. So we don't have to spend $1 billion, to get to production, and we've proven that, right? We've proven that more than over and over again. Meaning, take a look at where we're at today, and take a look at a lot of the other guys that are in the space that have spent billions, and I use the word with the B. We've not spent billions. If you take a look at everything we've spent, it's probably less than half of that. And look at the assets we have. We own a factory. We own a factory that General Motors probably spent well over $1 billion. I know that the paint shop alone at Michery, just to relocate that paint shop to Mexico, one of our competitors, when we were trying to buy, the assets, we were told by Door that they gave this particular company a quote of $500 million to move just the paint shop to Mexico, right? So obviously, I see the value in just what's there. So from our perspective, we've acquired tangible assets, real estate, production capabilities, and we've spent less than half of what the closest competitor to us has spent, who doesn't have a factory, who doesn't have what we have. And yet they're trading at a multiple 10 times greater than us. So I usually look at this and I say to myself, at some point, I gotta ignore the noise, and I just gotta like filter it out, and I gotta just execute, and I believe the stock will take care of itself. I have a really good friend. I've known him for many, many years, and he used to be one of the principals at a company called Bear Stearns, and then he was at Prudential. And I was talking to him. I said, I don't understand why I'm getting such a beat down. I mean, look, I know this is beyond dilution. I mean, I don't think dilution at the level, and I see what these guys convert, and I can look at that, and I know that it's nowhere near what potentially could cause even a minor slippage. And so it's the same guys that have been in for 2 years, and we've never had this problem before, and they were selling at the same levels. So this, I think a lot of this has to stem from a massive group of people that are betting against the company. And if you want to call that short, you can do that. It's making a bet. They're betting that the company's going to fail. And so that's kind of, and if you call that a short, you call it a short. I don't, but it's a bet that they're making. I'm betting that the company's going to succeed. And why? Because the company's been here for well over a decade. It's not like a lot of these other SPACs that popped up overnight because of the SPAC craze and really don't have anything that's tangible. We've garnered so much experience over the last 14 years. This company's learned a lot. It's learned to be an automotive manufacturer. I've learned how to be fiscally responsible. I don't brag about it, but I think no one works harder than me, right? No one has more to prove than me. So from my perspective, I'm on a mission. I could care less, what people say or want to do to me. I get attacked all day, every day. I get attacked, sometimes rightfully so, because I am, at the end of the day, the buck stops with me, and I'm responsible for every single person in this company. I'm responsible for every single promise. And so I accept full responsibility, and I go out there and I work extra hard to make sure that things happen. I'm pushing guys that have spent 42 years with General Motors, pushing them harder than they've ever been pushed before, because I want Mullen to be the difference. I want to be, and I understand the sentiment out there by the retail. I have sympathy with the retailers. They're in all of these different EV companies, and all they see is the same thing over and over again. Doesn't matter if it's Rivian, if it's Lucid, if it's Canoo, it doesn't matter who it is. It's the same result, right? So what can I do to be different? Well, I could stop by listening to the noise. I could put my head down and say, let my actions speak. Today, we put out a PR. I could speak about that. We announced that, we sold some vehicles, and we're proud of that because we're going to reflect that on our 10Q as we stated publicly. And, again, there's no reason for the stock to do what it's doing. And if it were anybody else in any other space that announced something like substantive like that, the stock would react in a much better fashion. But it's okay. I understand, right? It's baby steps, right? It's one step at a time. One step at a time, right? We're going to go from point A to point Z one step at a time. There's no, genie in the bottle, right? But I will tell you this, everything we said we're going to do, we are going to do and then some. And I'm hoping that at the end of the day, right, people will acknowledge our hard work and our efforts and reward us by giving us a better valuation, more in line with where I believe we deserve to be. Again, we've hired a lot of people. I made a promise. No one comments about the promise that I made to employ a lot of Americans, to put Americans back to work. I've done exactly that to the tune of 400 people. No one comments on that, right? They figure, oh, well, he did that, so we don't need to attack him on that because we know he did that. But that's really the most important thing here at the end of the day, right? Not taking jobs away from people. I'm sitting here hearing every day that so-and-so laid off 200 people. This guy laid off 1,000 people. That guy laid off 500 people. That guy filed for Chapter 7. That guy filed for Chapter 11. Look at all these people losing jobs. I think that impacts America more than anything. I want to be the guy that employs these guys, that gives them a reason to want to do great things. I want to open up the books and let these guys run wild and follow their dreams and help make America, a great manufacturing powerhouse as it's been since inception. One of the great things about America is that we can all get together and work as a team, and we can accomplish any goal. When World War II happened, we were faced with, a major task, which was to produce aircrafts, produce military vehicle, produce, things in order to avert a potential threat that could engulf the entire planet. And at that time, women were working in the factories while men were fighting, producing goods, weapons, vehicles, and, the whole industrial revolution, right? The power that the American people have, the will, the might, and the ingenuity and the technology, all of these things, we could work together to create, to push forward. And at that time, we were able to defeat a very formidable opponent who was threatening the, world peace, right? Yeah. So I think today, America is faced with another kind of battle. And that battle is, forces are not attacking us with military weapons and attacking us with with bombs and war. They're attacking us by within, removing jobs from America, taking technology away, making us dependent on outside entities for our products, when we used to be the country that produced the products that supplied the world. We've become more of a service-related country rather than a country that builds and makes things. We got to get back to building and making things. Mullen is building and making things. And I'm very active in doing that. And my people and every single person in here has the work ethic that they're with these things, with hands, we build great things. And we power forward no matter what happens, no matter how we're attacked, no matter, like I said, you got to kill us to stop us. We still got $250 million worth of cash. We still have a factory that we own free and clear. We still have vehicles. We still have assets. You can manipulate as much as you want. You can attack as much as you want. You're not going to stop us. We're an American company that's working together. United, we stand. And we will fight till the end. And we will win. We will win. There is no loss, right? We are persistent and we're determined to win. And how we do that is by delivering fundamentals. This is a fundamentals, right? Right now, I look at this and people are trading us based on technicals, what they see. They're not trading us based on fundamentals. And it's funny because in the past, people would say, you got to trade people based on fundamentals. Well, I guess I don't know what happened to that, but it's okay. Again, a great friend of mine, who I've known for a long time, who, again, was one of the main guys over at Bear Stearns and Prudential, said to me, ignore the noise, put your head down, execute, and the stock will eventually correct itself. He says, let it go where it's going to go. Don't kill yourself over it. Don't watch it every day. Ignore it. Don't go to social media. Stay away from the boards. Don't discourage yourself. Be focused, be direct, and things will, if you're an honest person, you're doing good things, you're working hard, good things will happen to you. Eventually, the bad guys that are trying to tear you down eventually go away or get themselves into trouble and go to jail. It's funny how they make threats about, all of these things. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to hurt you, we're going to all sorts of crazy things. all because they want to create this downward pressure that they can capitalize on. At the end of the day, what are they doing? They're trying to quote unquote capitalize on downward momentum, and they create that downward momentum by lies, right? I don't want to say fake news, but they go out there and they lie, and they scare a guy like you who maybe believes in something but is afraid that, hey, I can't take another beat down. So I had enough of that.
But when it does come down to, for instance, you've mentioned, I guess, a lot of people spreading potentially fake information or just to spread fear and so forth. Once again, to cycle back to share until, I know you can't share any specifics, but do you have more of a time frame on when you anticipate any potential update to share investors or to investors?
You'll know when I know, and the general public will know when you and I know.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, based on today's PR, you do reference about pilot programs. Is there any update that you'd like to share? And if so, what does that look like in the future?
So we disclosed publicly today that we have multiple pilots that are ongoing. And we stated that they're in the pharmaceutical space, aviation. I can't remember the other spaces, but we have, I believe the PR said 6 different sectors with pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Are they all for the M1, or is there any for the M3 potentially?
A combination of both. And I can say, since we announced that there will be further, as we stated again in the PR, there'll be further announcements.
Okay. You kind of did talk on sentiment a little bit. And again, given how much the stock price has gone down, the sentiment of investors, majority of which are down substantially from their investment, what would you personally say to a lot of those investors that is down 80, 90% potentially in their just holding? What would you say to them?
I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to work for them. I'm going to work for you. I'm going to work for them. I'm going to work for every single shareholder till I drop dead in trying to create value for them. And how I do that is I deliver vehicles, I deliver technology, I deliver partnerships, I deliver revenue, and I hope to God that anybody who decided to bet against the company goes away. And at some point, when the market as a whole, meaning not just the sector, but as a whole, decides that things are going to change and we can change with it, then maybe the value that we've created will be rewarded by an appreciation in the value of the company and its stock. So I'm not going nowhere. I've been here for 14 years. I started this company when I purchased Mullen Motor Company, and then I purchased Dakota Automotive Assets, used my own personal money to do that, built this company from the ground up when it was just myself. I was employee number 1 14 years ago. So, believe me, I've seen a lot of guys come and go. I was there when there was nobody there. Where there were just 2 guys in the game, Tesla and Coda. You can go corroborate that. And so, and I just worked really hard. I worked really hard when everybody wanted to go into SPACs. I felt like that might have not been the right, call for us. I just didn't like the whole SPAC thing, and I wanted to be public because I needed to help generate the capital needed to launch a car on a national level. And the only way you could get that, obviously, is through the capital markets. So I felt that doing an RTO was more conducive to allowing us to execute on our plan. You got to remember, too, I spent a lot of time before I went public. In 2019, I was on Capitol Hill. I spent time at the U.S. House of Representatives, and I spent time at the U.S. Senate. I went up there lobbying for my position. I tell people we filed, an application with the United States Department of Energy in January of 2020. I mean, this is a long process. You have to, they opened up the portal for us. Back then, When we applied, the portal was closed. We sat with the current White House administration. I sat with Ben Hobbs, who was a special assistant to the President of the United States, who worked with the Department of Energy to open up the portal so we could submit, because we told them, we want to hire Americans. We want to put Americans back to work. Help us make America great again. And they said, we're going to help you. We are going to help you. And so obviously COVID hit, and that kind of slowed everybody down for a couple of years. And then as we developed our business and things changed, we modified our plan and we became more focused in what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And then we got lucky. We were able to acquire, the 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 assets out of bankruptcy. We were able to make what I believe to be a generational acquisition when we took controlling interest of Bollinger Motors. I believe today, and I stand behind my decision to acquire Bollinger, that our shareholders are going to be greatly rewarded by that acquisition alone. I believe Bollinger Motors, to me, is a once-in-a-lifetime company. And Robert Bollinger is a great man. Remember, anybody who can successfully take multiple businesses and sell them for a profit didn't do it. It wasn't luck. It was skill. And the guy did it three times. So he's a smart man. Robert Bollinger is a very, very smart man and runs a very, very tight operation and has the same work ethic that I have. That's one of the reasons I was attracted to him, was his work ethic. And he's been in the business for 8 or 9 years. And he has something that nobody else has. Take a look at that B1 and B2. Take a good look at it, because it's about to become a world recognized vehicle.
I know we have covered quite a lot of things. Was there anything that you wanted to, say at this point? Anything else that you would like to bring up?
We're working really, really hard for our shareholders. There's a lot of really great things that are coming down the pike. We said today in our PR that we had 6 different programs going in 6 different areas. And off the top of my head, the pharmaceutical space was one, aviation was the other. And I believe even last mile delivery might even be one of them. But there's, things that are actively happening as stated in that PR. And we will start to announce things according to what we've stated today publicly. Outside of that, we are focused, we're determined to deliver. We are focused, and we did that today. We delivered some vehicles. Look, we booked $308,000 in revenue that's going to show on our 10Q that ends, our quarter ends tomorrow. I'd like to see anybody else come and challenge us on that. That is revenue to the bottom line, right, to the books. So we're going to get out there, and that's just the beginning. By the way, the offer still stands. If you want to come down to our factory in August and tour it and bring your cameras, and you can, watch vehicles being made and broadcast live, you're more than welcome to do that. We extend that offer to you.
Oh, I'd love that. I'll for sure do that. That's amazing. Yeah, honestly, I think you're moving in the right direction. Clearly with production, that's what a lot of people want, especially with today's PR. I think Mullen's building the good foundation that a good company needs to obviously move forward from here.
One last thing, I just thought about something. We're in Troy, Michigan. We're in Michigan with Bollinger. We're in Mishawaka, Indiana. We're in Tunica, Mississippi. We're in Irvine, California. We're in Monrovia, California. And we're producing vehicles. We're producing battery packs. We're doing things that a lot of these other guys aren't doing, right?
Yeah.
And we're doing it at a level where we're not spending billions and billions of dollars. We've spent less than $500 million to get to production. How many guys can say that they've done that? How many guys can say that they're fiscally responsible, that with shareholders' money, right? At the end of the day, we didn't spend $3 billion to get to no cars. We didn't spend $2 billion and we're looking for a factory. Reality is, it takes a major, if General Motors wanted to build a new facility, it would take them 5 years and several billion dollars. Think about that. That's GM. We have a facility that can do production now. 2 facilities, Tunica, Mississippi, and Mishawaka, Indiana. Mishawaka is a very high volume facility, body shop, paint shop, general assembly. Tunica, Mississippi is assembly, full blown assembly, with a small paint shop to do what we call minor repairs, right? But not a full blown paint shop that can, paint, 22 vehicles, a minute or whatever it paints. I mean, whatever the number is, but it's massively high volume. And it was configured for class 3, which is very ideal for the Bollinger B1 and B2. And you got cash. By the way, how many guys actually have cash? Last time I checked, a lot of the guys are filing announcements that they don't have any cash, that they may go out of business. We're telling people we got years of cash. We're not going anywhere, but yet we are being priced as if we're going out of business. How the hell can you price us as if we're going out of business when we just told you we're not? And we just told you we have plenty of capital. And we just today showed you we're delivering product. We want to get the vehicles rolling off the lines. We want to deliver to customers. We're focused right now on building a network to be able to, do all the things that we need to do after you sell a car, right? People forget. People just want to sell a car. They forget about the most important thing: service, warranty, right? You got to be able to do all of these things. And, as we announced publicly previously, we have a solution for that. So again, time will tell. I always tell people, don't judge us based on what you see today. Judge us based on the accomplishments and the results. If we perform and we do well, then you reward us by increased valuation and appreciation in stock price.
Well, David, I appreciate you taking the time once again to go through this with me. I'd love to have you on again, especially maybe before the shareholder meeting.
I want to be more active. I was told, in the past, when I used to do a lot of interviews, they were telling me, hey, you look like, excuse my French, they said I look like a media whore, right? And I said, no, that's not me. But they said, calm it down. You're out there too much. People are going to start to look at that negatively. So I listened to people and I backed off and I said, okay, maybe they're right. And maybe, I don't need all of that attention. And it's worked, negatively against me. People are now complaining that why have I not spoken? Why am I silent? So I figured there has to be a balance there. So, I would like to come on a regular basis, not just with you, but with, as many opportunities as I can to constantly update our shareholders on things that have happened. Obviously, once like today, we released information regarding the vehicles, and you and I were able to talk about it. As we continue to release more substantive information, I would be more than happy to get on the air with you and go over what transpired in that whatever that release might have been, and do that on a regular basis. For sure, they're gonna see a very active, outspoken person. I'm not going to be quiet anymore.
That's good. Yeah, I think a lot of investors need that at this stage. But once again, I appreciate you jumping on, David. And yeah, I think a lot of investors will be very excited to hear a lot of the things that you said and future PR eventually as well when it does come out.
I want to thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, letting me, address, the shareholders through your platform, but more importantly, as a friend, letting me vent, some of the things that have bothered me, right? I try to add a little humor to it, but I got to be honest, it's really, really tough. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you're like, do I want to continue to do this? And I say, yes, I do. I'm not going to give in. They got to kill me to stop me. And I try to breed that culture, within our organization, just to work really, really hard, avoid the noise, and deliver. And if they don't like what we deliver, then so be it. but at least deliver.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.